In the vast tapestry of spiritual traditions, the four yogas stand as timeless pillars guiding seekers towards self-realization. These ancient practices, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga, offer distinct paths, each designed to align the soul with its highest truth. Raja Yoga, the royal path, centers on mastering the mind through meditation and concentration, building an unshakable inner silence. It's not just a practice, it's a complete way of being. Imagine your mind as a restless river, with Raja Yoga teaching you to calm its currents, transforming chaos into stillness. Unlike other paths that engage emotion or intellect, Raja Yoga directly tackles the root of suffering, the turbulent mind. Those who delve into it often find themselves shedding layers of ego consciousness, revealing the pure awareness beneath. The journey is rigorous, demanding unwavering commitment, yet the rewards are profound: self-mastery, liberation, and a glimpse into the infinite. While Raja Yoga forms the heart of disciplined practice, the other yogas complement and balance the soul's journey. Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, embraces the soul's yearning for divine connection, transforming love into a force of transcendence. Jnana Yoga, rooted in wisdom and discernment, slices through ignorance with the sword of self-inquiry. It challenges preconceived notions, urging practitioners to look beyond the illusion of the ego and witness the true I, the pure awareness that lies beyond thought. Karma Yoga, meanwhile, purifies through selfless action, dissolving the spiritual ego that clings to recognition and validation. These paths are not mutually exclusive, but are intertwined, forming a harmonious system that embraces the totality of human experience. Each individual, guided by their inner calling, can explore one or merge several, crafting a practice that resonates with their soul's unique vibration. Many sages and pundits throughout history have emphasized that integrating these four yogas fosters a balanced and complete spiritual practice. It's not enough to immerse oneself in meditation without understanding the subtle traps of the spiritual ego, nor to devote oneself to selfless service without cultivating inner silence. Ramana Maharshi, revered as a master of self-inquiry, recognized the necessity of blending paths to achieve liberation. His teachings remind us that pure awareness arises when effort, devotion, knowledge, and selfless action converge harmoniously. This fusion transcends the false I, the illusory identity shaped by thoughts and social conditioning, unveiling the true I, which remains untouched by the sleight of hand performed by the mind. Just as a skilled musician blends notes into harmony, the yogi must blend practices to resonate with the truth. In practical terms, the journey through the four yogas requires commitment and intention. Start by observing your natural inclinations. Do you gravitate toward contemplation, devotion, knowledge, or action? Let your soul guide you toward the practice that aligns most deeply with your essence. As you immerse yourself in Raja Yoga, practice concentration through silent meditation, allowing the mantra, "I am silence," to dissolve mental chatter. Supplement this with acts of selfless service, or delve into texts like the Ashtavakra Gita for deeper insight into non-dual awareness. Even if devotion isn't your strength, embrace the spirit of surrender, acknowledging a power greater than the ego consciousness. Such integration fosters inner power and liberation, breaking the chains of identification with the false I, and establishing the mind in stillness. The four yogas teach that liberation is not a singular path, but a convergence of efforts aimed at dissolving ignorance. It's about realizing that spiritual energy is not something acquired, but something unveiled when the noise of the mind is silenced. The secret lies not just in practice, but in the mindset, seeing effort not as a burden, but as a joyful discipline that awakens the inner self. It's the paradox of striving without attachment, effort without ego, that opens the door to effortless awareness. When a yogi transcends the need for recognition and validation, the journey itself becomes liberation. And as the mind surrenders to silence, a profound realization emerges. The essence of being lies not in effort, but in the simple awareness of I am. Chapter 1. 4 Yogas, the Pathways to Self-Realization. In a vast tapestry of spiritual traditions, the 4 yogas stand as timeless pillars guiding seekers towards self-realization. These ancient practices, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga, offer distinct paths, each designed to align the soul with its highest truth. Raja Yoga, the royal path, centers on mastering the mind through meditation and concentration, building an unshakable inner silence. It's not just a practice, it's a complete way of being. Imagine your mind as a restless river, with Raja Yoga teaching you to calm its currents, transforming chaos into stillness. Unlike other paths that engage emotion or intellect, Raja Yoga directly tackles the root of suffering, the turbulent mind. Those who delve into it often find themselves shedding layers of ego consciousness, revealing the pure awareness beneath. The journey is rigorous, demanding unwavering commitment, yet the rewards are profound: self-mastery, liberation, and a glimpse into the infinite. While Raja Yoga forms the heart of disciplined practice, the other yogas complement and balance the soul's journey. Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, embraces the soul's yearning for divine connection, transforming love into a force of transcendence. Jnana Yoga, rooted in wisdom and discernment, slices through ignorance with the sword of self-inquiry. It challenges preconceived notions, urging practitioners to look beyond the illusion of the ego and witness the true I, the pure awareness that lies beyond thought. Karma Yoga, meanwhile, purifies through selfless action, dissolving the spiritual ego that clings to recognition and validation. These paths are not mutually exclusive, but are intertwined, forming a harmonious system that embraces the totality of human experience. Each individual, guided by their inner calling, can explore one or merge several, crafting a practice that resonates with their soul's unique vibration. Many sages and pundits throughout history have emphasized that integrating these 4 yogas fosters a balanced and complete spiritual practice. It's not enough to immerse oneself in meditation without understanding the subtle traps of the spiritual ego, nor to devote oneself to selfless service without cultivating inner silence. Ramana Maharshi, revered as a master of self-inquiry, recognized the necessity of blending paths to achieve liberation. His teachings remind us that pure awareness arises when effort, devotion, knowledge, and selfless action converge harmoniously. This fusion transcends the false I, the illusory identity shaped by thoughts and social conditioning, unveiling the true I, which remains untouched by the sleight of hand performed by the mind. Just as a skilled musician blends notes into harmony, the yogi must blend practices to resonate with the truth. In practical terms, the journey through the 4 yogas requires commitment and intention. Start by observing your natural inclinations. Do you gravitate toward contemplation, devotion, knowledge, or action? Let your soul guide you toward the practice that aligns most deeply with your essence. As you immerse yourself in Raja Yoga, practice concentration through silent meditation, allowing the mantra, I am silence, to dissolve mental chatter. Supplement this with acts of selfless service or delve into texts like the Ashtavakra Gita for deeper insight into non-dual awareness. Even if devotion isn't your strength, embrace the spirit of surrender, acknowledging a power greater than the ego consciousness. Such integration fosters inner power and liberation, breaking the chains of identification with the false I and establishing the mind in stillness. The four yogas teach that liberation is not a singular path, but a convergence of efforts aimed at dissolving ignorance. It's about realizing that spiritual energy is not something acquired, but something unveiled when the noise of the mind is silenced. The secret lies not just in practice, but in the mindset, seeing effort not as a burden, but as a joyful discipline that awakens the inner self. It's the paradox of striving without attachment, effort without ego, that opens the door to effortless awareness. When the yogi transcends the need for recognition and validation, the journey itself becomes liberation. And as the mind surrenders to silence, a profound realization emerges. The essence of being lies not in effort, but in the simple awareness of I am. Chapter 2. Raja Yoga. Mastering the mind through silence. Raja Yoga, often referred to as the royal path, stands as the pinnacle of yogic discipline, guiding practitioners toward mastery over the mind. It's a journey marked by intense focus, unwavering dedication, and the cultivation of inner silence. At its core, Raja Yoga revolves around the practice of meditation and concentration, aiming to dissolve the chaos of mental turbulence. Through practices like dharana, concentration, and dhyana, meditation, the mind becomes as still as a tranquil lake, reflecting the pure awareness of the self. This path challenges the very fabric of ego consciousness, pushing the practitioner to confront the restless nature of thought itself. The goal is to dissolve the false I, the constructed identity that clings to fleeting impressions, revealing the true I, the essence that transcends perception. Silence is not merely the absence of sound in Raja Yoga. It is the profound stillness that permeates consciousness when a mind ceases its endless chatter. This inner silence is both the practice and the result, an ongoing state of being that emerges through disciplined meditation. It's a state where effort and effortlessness coexist, where concentration transforms into pure awareness. Ramana Maharshi often emphasized the transformative power of silence, considering it the ultimate teaching. To him, true wisdom was not something to be spoken, but something to be realized within. As the mind settles into silence, the practitioner experiences glimpses of samadhi, a profound absorption where the false I dissolves completely. In this state, spiritual energy flows unhindered, and the yogi tastes the essence of liberation. Yet, the path is not without its challenges. The ego resists dissolution, clinging to its familiar identity and conjuring distractions to maintain control. This resistance is the mind's sleight of hand, convincing the practitioner that silence is unattainable. The key lies in persistence, allowing thoughts to arise without attachment and gently guiding attention back to the mantra, I am silence. This simple yet potent practice anchors the mind, preventing it from wandering into habitual patterns. Raja Yoga teaches that the struggle with the ego is not about force, but about consistent redirection, like a gentle shepherd guiding a wayward flock. It's the willingness to sit through the discomfort that allows the breakthrough, a moment when silence becomes the natural state. Many spiritual traditions echo the essence of Raja Yoga, from Christian mystics who embrace contemplative silence to sages like Tatwariyar and Swarupananda, whose very presence exuded peace. The practice itself is universal, transcending cultural and doctrinal boundaries, because silence is inherent to human nature. In practical application, start by dedicating a few minutes daily to sit quietly, focusing solely on your breath or the mantra. Gradually increase this time as you become more comfortable with stillness. You might find resistance at first, but persistence will unveil a tranquility that words cannot capture. It's about trusting the process, knowing that beneath the noise lies a wellspring of serenity waiting to be discovered. The paradox of Raja Yoga is that effort itself dissolves into effortlessness. As concentration becomes natural, silence arises without strain, and the seeker merges with the essence of pure awareness. This is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of living from a place of unwavering stillness. Those who master Raja Yoga are not merely meditators. They are embodiments of tranquility, living testaments to the power of mastering the mind. The next step, however, is understanding how silence itself becomes the gateway to self-realization, revealing truths that no spoken word could convey. Chapter 3: Silence and Self-Realization, the Gateway to Inner Truth. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is the profound stillness that allows the soul to glimpse its own essence. In a world of spiritual practice, silence holds a paradoxical power. It is both a tool and a destination, a practice and a realization. Those who master the art of silence find themselves face to face with the unspoken truth of existence. When the noise of the mind subsides, the clarity of pure awareness emerges, revealing the presence of the true I beyond the false I that clings to identity and illusion. Silence is not something to be achieved, but uncovered, for it resides eternally within, masked by the relentless chatter of thoughts and the grasping of the ego consciousness. To practice silence is to peel back the layers of distraction and rest in the natural state of being. Self-realization flourishes in the fertile ground of silence. It's not about intellectual understanding or philosophical speculation, but about the direct experience of pure awareness. The mind, so often caught in endless loops of reasoning and analysis, struggles to comprehend this simplicity. Yet silence requires no explanation. It simply is. Ramana Maharshi taught that silence itself is the highest form of instruction, for it bypasses the limitations of language and directly communicates the essence of truth. The journey into inner silence demands the dissolution of the spiritual ego, which masquerades as wisdom but feeds on self-importance. True silence humbles the soul, stripping away the need to be perceived as enlightened or knowledgeable. It is in this surrender that realization dawns, unobstructed by the demands of the false self. Practicing silence does not mean isolating oneself from the world, but rather cultivating an inner stillness amidst the noise of daily life. Start with short periods of silent meditation, just sitting with the breath, allowing thoughts to come and go without attachment. Gradually, this practice becomes second nature, and silence seeps into ordinary moments, waiting in line, walking, even in conversation. It's not about suppressing thoughts, but about witnessing them without being entangled. The mantra, "I am silence," serves as a powerful anchor, reminding the practitioner that silence is not something to reach, but something to remember. In this space, even the most tumultuous emotions lose their grip, for silence reveals their transient nature. Silence also teaches discrimination between the false I and the true I. The ego thrives on sound, movement, and validation, constantly seeking to affirm its own importance. In contrast, the true self remains unaffected, rooted in the timeless awareness that observes without judgment. As silence deepens, the mind's sleight of hand becomes apparent, the way it fabricates stories and identities to maintain control. Recognizing this illusion is the first step toward liberation. It is the practice of inner silence that unveils the subtle distinction between what is transient and what is eternal. Once the false I is recognized, it loses its power, and the practitioner rests in the effortless awareness of the true I. The more one practices silence, the more profound the transformation becomes. Life no longer feels like a series of reactions, but rather a continuous flow of peaceful presence. The inner power that arises from this state is not dominance over others, but mastery over oneself. It's the kind of peace that Christian mystics and ancient sages cherished, an unshakable state that no external circumstance can disturb. As silence becomes habitual, the seeker moves closer to the essence of self-realization. And yet, silence is not the final destination. It's the doorway that opens to deeper insights and a subtle wisdom that transcends the mind's grasp. The next step is to understand how the spiritual ego can disguise itself as enlightenment, leading even the most diligent seeker astray. Chapter 4: Spiritual Ego and Self-Inquiry. Unmasking the Illusion. One of the most insidious obstacles on the path to self-realization is the emergence of the spiritual ego. Unlike the ordinary ego, which thrives on social validation and material achievements, the spiritual ego cloaks itself in wisdom and enlightenment. It whispers that you've reached a higher state, that your insights set you apart from others. Yet, this subtle arrogance traps seekers in a new illusion, believing they are beyond illusion. The spiritual ego can be more dangerous than the mundane one because it hides under the guise of virtue, making it harder to detect. Practicing self-inquiry becomes crucial at this stage, as it allows the practitioner to question the very root of this identity. The false I becomes more cunning, convincing the mind that it has transcended ego while secretly clinging to the identity of being enlightened. Self-inquiry is a method of peeling back these layers of deception. It is not about asking questions to find intellectual answers, but about relentlessly tracing the source of each thought back to its origin. Ramana Maharshi emphasized the question, "Who am I?" as the ultimate tool for cutting through the spiritual ego. Instead of being satisfied with superficial insights, one must dive deeper, questioning who is claiming this wisdom or superiority. As long as the sense of I is tied to any concept, no matter how elevated, it remains rooted in ego consciousness. The mind is clever, performing a sleight of hand that makes pride appear as humility and arrogance as detachment. True self-inquiry dismantles this illusion, allowing pure awareness to emerge unhindered by pretense. One practical way to engage in self-inquiry is through daily reflection on moments when pride or a sense of superiority arises. Ask yourself, who is feeling this pride? Who is claiming to be more advanced? Sit with the discomfort without justifying or rationalizing it. Let the questions dissolve into silence rather than forcing answers. Over time, this practice weakens the false I's grip, and the sense of self becomes less rigid, more fluid. You begin to see that spiritual realization is not something to be owned or displayed, but rather a continuous unfolding that requires deep humility. It's not about how many mantras you've mastered or how much knowledge you've accumulated, but about the willingness to confront the truth of your own motivations. The deeper the inquiry, the more layers of ego consciousness are exposed. It becomes evident that the mind, in its cunning, has been trying to take credit for spiritual progress, subtly reinforcing the false I. To truly dismantle this, one must persistently question even the desire to be recognized as wise or enlightened. It's essential to remain vigilant, for the spiritual ego will attempt to disguise itself in increasingly subtle ways. Those who practice this relentless self-inquiry gradually become empty of false identities, resting in the awareness that has no need for recognition or validation. It's a quiet, unassuming state, one that neither boasts of achievements nor laments failures. As the spiritual ego dissolves, a profound liberation takes place, a release from the burden of being seen as wise or accomplished. The seeker becomes less concerned with how they appear to others and more attuned to the silent, unwavering presence within. This is the essence of true humility, recognizing that even the highest insights are not yours, but simply glimpses of universal truth. The mind becomes a servant rather than a master, bowing to the silent awareness that remains ever present. Yet, even in this state, vigilance is necessary, for the mind's desire to reclaim control never fully vanishes. Next, we will explore how Ramana Maharshi's teachings illuminate the path of self-inquiry and silence, offering invaluable insights into the nature of the true I. Chapter 5. Teachings of Ramana Maharshi, the Master of Silence and Self-Inquiry. Ramana Maharshi is often revered as the epitome of silence and the living embodiment of self-inquiry. His teachings transcend intellectual discourse, guiding seekers to the direct experience of pure awareness. To him, silence was not merely the absence of speech, but the profound stillness where the mind's noise dissolves, leaving only the essence of being. Ramana did not advocate for complex rituals or dogmatic practices. Instead, he encouraged seekers to immerse themselves in the question, "Who am I?" This inquiry dismantles the false I, peeling away layers of identity shaped by thoughts and emotions. For Ramana, realizing the self was not about acquiring new knowledge, but shedding the illusion that one is anything other than the silent awareness itself. One of Ramana's most powerful insights is the understanding that self-realization does not require creating something new, but remembering the self that has always been present. He emphasized that the true I is not a construct of the mind, but the pure witness that remains unchanged amidst thoughts and feelings. To experience this truth, he urged practitioners to cease their relentless search for external validation and turn inward. Silence, he taught, is both the means and the end, an effortless awareness where even the concept of effort vanishes. The paradox here is that while effort is necessary to establish concentration and practice, the ultimate realization comes when effort itself dissolves. In this effortless state, spiritual energy flows unobstructed, untouched by the ego consciousness. Ramana's approach to self-inquiry is refreshingly simple, yet profoundly transformative. He did not see spiritual practice as a means of achieving something external, but as a return to one's innate state of being. To those struggling with the demands of meditation or concentration, he advised to simply persist without attachment to results. The mantra, "I am silence," becomes not just a practice, but a realization, a constant reminder that the essence of self is inherently quiet, even amidst life's chaos. Ramana's unwavering commitment to silence demonstrated that inner peace is not dependent on circumstances, but on the absence of identification with the transient ego. His presence alone was said to emanate a tranquility that could dissolve the restless mind of those around him. A remarkable example of his influence is seen in the lives of his disciples, who found liberation not through philosophical debates, but by sitting quietly in his presence. One story tells of a seeker who, after years of restless searching, simply sat at Ramana's feet and felt his mind unravel into silence. It was not a teaching delivered through words, but through the profound stillness that radiated from the master. This exemplifies that true guidance does not always come through instruction, but through direct experience. Ramana's ability to convey silence without uttering a word demonstrates that the highest wisdom is beyond speech, rooted in the essence of being itself. Ramana Maharshi's legacy continues to inspire countless seekers, reminding them that true liberation lies not in concepts, but in the direct recognition of the self. To truly embrace his teachings, one must be willing to confront the spiritual ego that seeks recognition, even in enlightenment. Silence is not something to be achieved, but something to be remembered. A return to the state where thoughts lose their grip and the true I remains unshaken. As we move forward, let us explore how the silent power of a guru's presence can transcend even the most elaborate teachings, as seen in the story of Tatwarir and Swarupananda. Chapter 6. Story of Tatwarir and Swarupananda. The silent power of a guru. There is a story that beautifully illustrates the silent power of a guru, revealing how presence alone can ignite transformation. Tatwarir and Swarupananda were two revered sages known for their profound wisdom and unshakable tranquility. One day, a disciple approached Swarupananda with a burning question about the nature of self-realization. He had read countless scriptures and practiced numerous techniques, yet felt no closer to liberation. Swarupananda, instead of offering words, simply looked at him in silence. The disciple's mind churned with impatience, desperate for guidance, but the guru remained unmoved, immersed in a stillness so profound it seemed to swallow the world. The disciple, frustrated, finally demanded an answer. Tatwarir, observing from nearby, approached and spoke gently. "Do you not see? Silence is the answer. Your mind craves explanations, yet it is the very craving that obstructs your realization." At that moment, something shifted within the disciple. The restless thoughts that had plagued him softened, and he found himself settling into the same silence that enveloped the gurus. It wasn't that the silence itself conveyed knowledge, but that it dissolved the mind's compulsion to grasp at understanding. The seeker finally recognized that liberation was not something to attain, but a state to unveil by quieting the mental noise. This story captures a profound truth. Wisdom does not always come through intellectual discourse, but through the direct transmission of presence. Both Tatwarir and Swarupananda embodied the essence of the silent guru, demonstrating that the highest teachings often arrive without a single word. Their silence was not empty. It was potent, vibrating with the clarity of pure awareness. This principle aligns with the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, who often said that silence is the most powerful teaching because it transcends the limitations of language. It's not about understanding with the mind, but resonating with the silence that lies beyond thought. For seekers today, this story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs occur not through relentless questioning, but through surrendering to silence. Next time you find yourself wrestling with spiritual concepts or struggling to understand the self, try sitting in silence instead. Let the thoughts rise and fall without attachment, and allow the silence to reveal its own wisdom. You may find that what you sought to grasp was never something to hold, but to experience. Practice sitting in silence without expectation, simply being present with whatever arises. This practice trains the mind to rest without fixation, making room for the silent understanding that transcends words. The power of a guru's presence lies not in their knowledge, but in their ability to still the mind of the seeker. Tatwarir and Swarupananda understood that teaching through silence is the most direct path to the essence of being. The disciple, through their example, learned that inner power is not forged through forceful practice, but through effortless awareness. The paradox here is that even effort itself becomes an illusion when one realizes that the true self is already free. In this realization, the seeker becomes the witness, the pure awareness that silently observes the dance of the mind without being entangled. The next question, then, is how to navigate the intricate dynamics of ego and mind without losing sight of the ultimate truth. Chapter 7. The Ego and the Mind, Unraveling the Illusion. The ego and the mind are intertwined forces that shape our perception of reality, creating a web of illusions that bind us to suffering. The ego, driven by the need for identity and validation, clings to every thought and emotion as if they were integral to our existence. It forms narratives, assumptions, and judgments that reinforce its presence, convincing us that we are our thoughts. Yet, the mind itself is not inherently problematic. It becomes a tool of bondage only when dominated by the ego consciousness. The challenge lies in distinguishing between the mind as an instrument of awareness and the ego as a distorted sense of self. To unravel this illusion, one must practice the art of witnessing, becoming the observer rather than the participant in mental drama. Witnessing is a practice rooted in pure awareness, where the mind's movements are observed without judgment or identification. It's like watching a storm through a window rather than standing in the rain. When thoughts arise, the witness remains untouched, simply noticing without grasping. This practice reveals that thoughts do not define the true I. They are fleeting phenomena, passing through the canvas of consciousness. The mind's sleight of hand lies in convincing us that each thought carries profound significance. Yet most are repetitive echoes shaped by past experiences and conditioning. By practicing witnessing, one learns to separate the essential self from the noise, unveiling the vast stillness beneath mental turbulence. An effective way to cultivate witnessing is through meditation practice, where concentration becomes an anchor amid mental chaos. Sit quietly and repeat the mantra, "I am silence," allowing it to permeate your awareness. As thoughts arise, do not resist them. Simply notice them and return to the mantra. Over time, the mind learns to settle, and the distance between the awareness and the thought process becomes apparent. This subtle separation weakens the ego's grip, as the false I loses credibility. Realizing that the mind's constant activity is not a reflection of the true self marks a pivotal shift, one that opens the door to liberation from mental identification. It's important to recognize that the ego is not inherently evil or malicious. It's merely a construct that emerges from the need to survive and adapt. However, when left unchecked, it overshadows the authentic self, trapping awareness in a cycle of reaction and attachment. Discrimination is key, knowing when the ego is asserting dominance and when the mind is serving its rightful purpose as a tool of discernment. Ashtavakra Gita speaks of the false I as a shadow, something that seems real until the light of awareness dissolves it. In practical terms, when you feel overwhelmed by emotions or thoughts, pause and ask, who is experiencing this? Who is witnessing the turmoil? This simple inquiry often diffuses the intensity and shifts perspective from entanglement to observation. Mastering the art of witnessing transforms the relationship between the ego and the mind. Instead of being enslaved by incessant thoughts and emotions, one learns to navigate life from a place of quiet clarity. The ego's power diminishes when it is consistently exposed as a phantom, an illusion born from identification. The mind, now free from the weight of ego consciousness, functions more efficiently, reflecting pure awareness without distortion. This profound shift not only fosters inner peace, but also cultivates a deeper understanding of how to wield mental energy wisely. Yet, to truly solidify this practice, one must delve deeper into meditation itself, embracing the mantra as both a practice and a living truth. Chapter 8. Meditation Practice. Anchoring the mind in silence. Meditation is not just a practice. It is the art of returning to one's natural state of being. In a world bombarded with distractions, the ability to sit in silence has become both rare and revolutionary. Meditation anchors the mind, transforming restless thoughts into a calm, clear awareness that reflects the true self. The key to effective meditation lies not in force or rigid control, but in gentle concentration. Raja Yoga teaches that meditation is the doorway to pure awareness, where the false I dissolves and the true I emerges without effort. The mantra, I am silence, becomes a powerful tool in this practice, guiding the mind to surrender its frantic pursuit of validation and settle into the peaceful presence of being. To begin a meditation practice, find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably, free from interruptions. Close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath, feeling the rise and fall of each inhalation and exhalation. As thoughts arise, do not resist them. Instead, observe them like clouds drifting through the sky. Repeat the mantra, I am silence, in your mind, allowing its resonance to permeate your awareness. The goal is not to empty the mind, but to disengage from the need to chase thoughts. As the mantra sinks deeper, a natural stillness envelopes your consciousness, and the mind surrenders to the quietude. This practice, when done consistently, cultivates a profound inner silence that transcends daily turmoil. One of the most common obstacles in meditation is the mind's tendency to wander. This is not a failure, but an opportunity to practice bringing attention back without frustration. Every time you notice your focus slipping, gently return to the mantra. Over time, the gaps between distractions lengthen, and the mind becomes more inclined to remain anchored in silence. It is essential to approach this process with patience and kindness. Forcing concentration only intensifies mental resistance. Instead, embrace each moment as part of the journey, knowing that even distraction has its purpose. By practicing regularly, the mind becomes accustomed to silence, and the mantra naturally arises even amidst activity. Advanced practitioners often experience states of samadhi, where the mind becomes fully absorbed in pure awareness. These moments are not achieved through effort, but through the surrender of effort itself. The paradox of meditation lies in striving to be effortless, holding intention without gripping it tightly. Christian mystics and sages from various traditions have described similar states, where silence overtakes the mind and spiritual energy flows without obstruction. The secret is not in striving to maintain silence, but in allowing silence to arise naturally, unobstructed by the ego's need to control the experience. This spontaneous absorption into silence becomes a profound revelation, the true I, untouched by mental turbulence, shining in its own light. The transformative power of meditation extends beyond the practice itself, influencing daily life with heightened clarity and tranquility. The mind becomes less reactive, and the spiritual ego loses its grip as the sense of being a doer fades. This practice nurtures a state of inner power that does not seek validation or recognition, but quietly exists in its own presence. Meditation, therefore, is not just a ritual, but a way of living, an ongoing invitation to return to the essence of being, no matter the external circumstances. Yet, as silence becomes more familiar, the practitioner must also navigate the challenge of distinguishing the false I from the true I, ensuring that the awareness remains rooted in authenticity rather than spiritual pride. Chapter 9. Discrimination between the false I and the true I, unveiling the illusion. The journey to self-realization hinges on a fundamental practice, discriminating between the false I and the true I. The false I is the illusion of identity constructed by thoughts, emotions, and memories. It clings to labels, achievements, and failures, constantly seeking validation from the world. This false self believes it is the doer, the thinker, and the sufferer. In contrast, the true I remains untouched by these fluctuations, existing as pure awareness that silently witnesses all experiences. The challenge lies in recognizing that the false I is not real, but merely a pattern formed by habitual thinking. It is a phantom, a sleight of hand performed by the mind to maintain its sense of control. To discern the difference between these two identities, one must cultivate the practice of self-inquiry. This means questioning the very sense of I whenever it arises. Who is feeling anxious? Who is claiming victory? Who is hurt by criticism? By tracing every thought and emotion back to its source, it becomes evident that the one who suffers and the one who observes are not the same. Ramana Maharshi emphasized that the true I is not the thinker, but the witness, the presence that perceives without attachment. This shift in understanding liberates the practitioner from the tyranny of the ego consciousness, allowing life to unfold without the constant interference of identity. One practical way to exercise discrimination is by catching the mind in the act of identifying with a role or a label. When you say, I am angry, or I am a failure, pause and investigate. Who is claiming this identity? Allow the question to dissolve the thought instead of demanding an intellectual answer. The more you practice, the clearer it becomes that the ego is merely a construct, an ephemeral association rather than a fundamental truth. This realization transforms your relationship with thoughts and emotions, allowing them to pass through without clinging or resistance. It's not about suppressing or denying feelings, but seeing them as transient waves on the ocean of awareness. The teachings of ancient sages and Christian mystics often highlight this distinction between the false and true self. Rumi poetically captured it when he spoke of losing oneself to find oneself, emphasizing the necessity of dissolving the ego to awaken to the divine essence within. Similarly, the Ashtavakra Gita offers wisdom on shedding the illusion of individuality, guiding seekers to recognize the eternal witness that transcends all worldly concerns. By immersing oneself in these teachings, one gains not just theoretical knowledge, but practical insights to apply in everyday life. It becomes a habit to ask, who am I in this moment? Not as a quest for answers, but as a means to return to the awareness that is ever present. As the false eye is gradually unmasked, a sense of liberation dawns. The ego's need for recognition and validation fades, replaced by an effortless awareness that simply is. This state of being does not negate emotions or thoughts, but observes them without entanglement. The mind, no longer dominated by the ego's compulsions, becomes a tool rather than a tyrant. This profound shift reshapes how one interacts with the world, fostering a quiet power that doesn't need to assert itself. The next step is understanding the paradox of effort in spiritual practice, where striving and surrender must coexist without contradiction. Chapter 10. The Role of Effort in Spiritual Practice, Striving Without Striving. Effort in spiritual practice is a paradox that confounds many seekers. On one hand, discipline and commitment are essential to cultivating silence and self-realization. On the other, true awareness arises only when effort dissolves into effortless being. This tension between striving and surrender creates a unique dynamic where the ego, eager to take credit for progress, often sabotages the very tranquility it seeks. The secret lies in understanding that effort is not about force, but about consistent, gentle intention. It's like planting a seed and nurturing it without obsessing over its growth. The moment effort becomes rigid, the mind falls back into grasping, and the spiritual ego reasserts itself. The challenge is to practice with dedication while simultaneously letting go of the desire for results. Raja Yoga exemplifies this approach, emphasizing concentration without attachment. The practice of meditation, where the mantra, I am silence, anchors awareness, requires both effort and surrender. Initially, the mind resists, conjuring distractions and doubts. Yet, as persistence gently tames the restless thoughts, effort transitions into a natural state of being. This is not passive resignation, but an active participation in the unfolding of awareness. The effort to sit in silence transforms into an effortless presence when the false I ceases to assert its dominance. It's a subtle shift from doing to being, where the practice becomes as natural as breathing. Many spiritual traditions emphasize this balance between effort and surrender. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that one must act without attachment to the fruits of action. This principle applies equally to spiritual practice. When effort becomes an end in itself, it tightens the grip of ego consciousness. To practice without expecting enlightenment is the ultimate liberation from the false eyes schemes. It's about trusting that the essence of self is already present, unbound by the noise of effortful striving. Even Christian mystics recognize that surrender to divine will mean allowing grace to act through them rather than forcing spiritual progress. This harmonious balance cultivates a serene dedication that withstands challenges without falling into obsession. A practical way to embody this paradox is to set aside specific times for practice without rigidly enforcing outcomes. Sit in silence with the intention of being present rather than achieving a particular state. Notice when effort becomes strain and consciously relax into the experience. If the mind wanders, guide it back gently without reprimand. This compassionate approach builds resilience without reinforcing the ego's need to control. Books like the Ashtavakra Gita or teachings from sages like Ramana Maharshi often highlight the importance of effortlessness and self-realization. By integrating these teachings into daily life, practice becomes a fluid dance between intention and release. Ultimately, the paradox of effort is resolved in the realization that striving itself is an illusion, a mental construct born from the belief that the self is separate from awareness. When effort dissolves into effortless presence, the true I naturally reveals itself. This is the essence of liberation, not the result of strenuous practice, but the awakening to what has always been present. The journey is not about becoming something greater, but remembering what already exists within. As this awareness matures, the practice itself becomes less about doing and more about being, a state of quiet receptivity where the inner power naturally unfolds. Next, we will explore how the mantra, I am silence, serves as a powerful catalyst for inner transformation, guiding the mind beyond effort into pure awareness. Chapter 11. Mantra and Inner Transformation. The Power of I Am Silence. Mantras hold a unique place in spiritual practice, acting as bridges between the restless mind and the tranquil self. Among them, the mantra, I Am Silence, carries a profound resonance, guiding practitioners beyond thought into pure awareness. It's not just a phrase, but a declaration of being, reminding the soul of its inherent stillness. When repeated consistently, it becomes more than mere words. It transforms into a living truth. The mind, accustomed to clinging to noise and distraction, gradually surrenders to the depth of the mantra, dissolving the false I. This simple yet potent practice bypasses the intellect, anchoring awareness directly in the present moment. Through repetition, the mantra penetrates deeper layers of consciousness, planting seeds of inner silence that blossom into effortless presence. In meditation, the mantra serves as both an anchor and a compass, guiding the practitioner back to the core of being whenever thoughts arise. As the mantra, I am silence, reverberates within, it acts like a tuning fork, harmonizing the dissonance of the mind with the frequency of stillness. It's not about suppressing thoughts, but gently allowing them to fade into the background, overshadowed by the mantra's quiet power. The mind learns to rest in this resonance, abandoning its habitual grasping and settling into pure awareness. This practice is not limited to formal meditation. It can be invoked at any moment, waiting in line, walking, or even during mundane tasks. The key is consistency, letting the mantra become a background hum that subtly shapes your consciousness. Transformation through the mantra occurs not by force, but by gentle persistence. The ego, threatened by the mantra's simplicity, may attempt to dismiss it as too basic or ineffective. Yet, with dedication, the power of I am silence reveals itself as a profound tool for liberation. The mantra dismantles the spiritual ego, which often craves complex techniques and grand gestures. By anchoring in this simple truth, the practitioner gradually experiences a shift from effortful striving to effortless being. Spiritual energy flows unhindered, and the ego consciousness weakens as the true I emerges from the shadows. This transformation is subtle at first, but over time, it permeates daily life with a quiet confidence rooted in pure awareness. The mantra's impact is not confined to individual practice. It radiates in interactions and choices, shaping how one navigates the world. A person grounded in the silence of the true I becomes less reactive, more observant, and increasingly attuned to the essence of life itself. This transformation transcends theoretical understanding and becomes a lived reality, an embodiment of peace that requires no validation. Ramana Maharshi often highlighted that the power of silence lies in its ability to disarm the mind without conflict. In this way, the mantra, I am silence, becomes a shield against distraction and a beacon that illuminates the path to self-realization. The true power of the mantra is in its simplicity, a direct assertion that bypasses intellectual debate and touches the core of existence. It's not about proving enlightenment, but living it through unwavering presence. As the mantra becomes integrated into the practitioner's life, it naturally erodes the barriers created by the false I, allowing pure awareness to shine unobstructed. The journey from effort to effortlessness finds its culmination in this quiet repetition, proving that transformation is not always loud or dramatic. It's the soft, steady hum of truth that reverberates through the soul. Now that we have explored the power of the mantra, it's time to dive deeper into the ultimate invitation to self-exploration, embracing the journey of liberation through self-realization. Conclusion. Embrace the journey to self-realization. The journey to self-realization is not about collecting concepts or impressing others with spiritual knowledge. It's about living the truth that already resides within you. Too often, we get caught up in the performance of spirituality, striving to be seen as wise or enlightened. Yet the real transformation happens in the quiet, unspoken moments when silence takes root and awareness unfolds effortlessly. The practices we've explored, Raja Yoga, meditation, mantra repetition, and self-inquiry, are not mere techniques, but doorways to your deepest essence. Liberation is not a distant goal, but a subtle shift from seeking to being. Are you ready to let go of the noise and embrace your true self? Consider the paradox of effort we discussed earlier, striving without striving. How often do you find yourself caught in the tension between wanting to progress and surrendering to the process? The secret lies not in forcing silence, but in welcoming it with a gentle intention. Take a moment right now to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and repeat, I am silence. Notice how the mind resists, how it clings to distractions. Instead of battling the thoughts, let them come and go without attachment. This practice, simple as it may seem, holds the key to unlocking your inner power. Are you willing to take that step and commit to the practice, knowing that transformation unfolds in its own time. Now that you have glimpsed the power of silence and the depth of self-inquiry, it's time to make this journey your own. Reflect on how these teachings resonate with your experiences. Are you identifying too much with the false I, or are you witnessing from the place of pure awareness? The practice does not end here. It's a lifelong commitment to remembering who you truly are. Allow the mantra to guide you, allow silence to teach you, and let go of the need to achieve anything grand. True liberation is subtle, quiet, and profoundly personal. Take a step forward today. Sit in silence, question your assumptions, and surrender to the truth that awaits within. If you feel inspired by this journey and want to deepen your understanding, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Let's walk this path together, exploring ancient wisdom and modern insights to cultivate a life rooted in peace and awareness. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. How does the concept of silence resonate with you? What challenges do you face in your practice? Your journey is yours to shape, and your insights might just inspire someone else to take that first step. Let's create a community of seekers dedicated to living the truth rather than merely talking about it.